Hi, welcome to Root Access, the show for startups on Google Developers Live. I'm Martin Nomander, and I'm joined here by Googler and longtime investor and startup evangelist Don Dodge. Today we're going to talk about setting up a company. So Don, I often get this question: when in the life cycle should I form a legal corporation for my startup?
As soon as you can. It's important to have a company to be able to accept money, to be able to hire people, to extend offers, to own assets. So you want to have a company set up as soon as possible. It can be a simple little corporation, it can be an LLC or a sub-S corp, but you should have something with a bank account as soon as you possibly can.
So as soon as you possibly can, does that mean before the friends and family round that we talked about in earlier episodes?
Yes. Again, you need a company to accept money. You need a bank account to put the money in. So you mentioned earlier about Larry and Sergey. They didn't even have a company put together. So when an investor wanted to write them a check, he wrote it to them personally because they didn't have Google set up. I don't advise doing that. It worked in their case. It worked
for them.
Quite well.
Yes.
But it's better to have a company set up and a checking account set up so that you can pay for things that you need and accept money as soon as you can.
Right. And seeing that checking account statement does something to your, reminds you that you have a company too, I guess.
Exactly. Every month when that checking account statement arrives, it reminds you, yes, I'm in business, and yes, I need to be doing things. I need to be hiring people. I need to be setting up my website. I need to be building my app. So it's another little reminder that this is serious. You're starting a company.
We're actually doing it, yeah. So you mentioned LLC, S Corp, sub S Corp. What should a startup founder do here? Do you recommend what type?
Yeah, it depends on how quickly you're going to accept money from investors. But typically, startups lose money, maybe for the first year or so. So you can set up an LLC or what's called a sub-S corporation. In both cases, the losses from the company flow through to your personal return, so you can actually take a deduction on your personal tax return for the losses of the company. Now that changes when you accept money from an investor. Then you have to be a full C corporation. But it's easy to make the transition from LLC or sub-S corporation to a full C corporation. It's fairly easy to do. You can do it yourself if you want, but if you're not comfortable with that, then you should have an accountant or a lawyer.
Right, and I mean, even if you may be comfortable doing that, you should focus on your startup idea perhaps, and not so much about figuring out these different types of corporations and such.
Yeah, well, you can do Google searches and find the answers to most of these questions online. And most of the things that you would need from a lawyer, for example, articles of incorporation or IP assignment rights or hiring kinds of agreements, employment agreements. You can find those things online, and they're pretty much boilerplate. But if you're too busy or not comfortable doing that, then it's good to have a lawyer who can do it, and they'll do it relatively inexpensively because those are fairly basic things. But they're things that need to be in place. So either do a search and find them online, or get a lawyer to help you with them, but they're things you must do. You cannot have a company that creates value where you don't have employment agreements and IP assignment rights and sort of board kind of articles of incorporation, because things get messed up in a hurry. So those are basic things that you need to have done before you accept money from investors or before you hire employees.
I see. So what other infrastructure? We mentioned checking account, we mentioned think through what type of corporation I'm creating. Is there other basic infrastructure like that I should have in place early on?
No, not from a legal or accounting point of view. Those things are pretty basic. You can run a company out of a checkbook for quite a while. As long as you have a checking account where you can accept investment or accept revenue from customers, and you can pay for things, you don't really need to have much of an infrastructure for quite a while. When you take on friends and family money, you can still run it out of a checking account and be fine. when you accept money from angel investors or venture capitalists, then you've got to have more systems in place to be able to handle those things. So it's pretty straightforward, but having an accountant or a lawyer that you can call on when you need them is probably a good idea.
So you have that relationship in place and you don't need to go look for them.
Right, you don't want to be having to stop what you're doing and go do all of this when the business is growing and you're moving along. Take care of that stuff in the early days when things aren't quite as hectic.
Early is better. All
Yes.
right. Great. Thanks, Don. That's all for today. Please add your comments and questions for the YouTube video, and we'll get back to them in future shows. Thanks for joining us, and see you at the next time next week.